It's great to have you here on the Clark Howard Show, where our mission is to serve you with advice and information that empowers you so you make better financial decisions in your life. In today's episode, it's time to hear your suggestions, your improvements for me, your criticisms of what I've said or done in our weekly Clark Stinks episode. Later, so many people have not taken advantage of an easy way to store your government ID. I'm going to tell you why I think you should do it right now. And right now is time for Clark Stinks.
I should have never encouraged you to speak.
You must think I'm pretty stupid.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Well, maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you're right, pal.
Okay, we're starting with Chuck in Pennsylvania. Here's your Clark Stinks. I would never say Clark Stinks, but I did hear something on a recent show where I think Clark could have provided a better response. A listener wrote in and asked if they should keep their savings in a high-yield savings account or in a money market or brokerage, and asked specifically if there were any differences, and I believe they specifically asked about taxes. Clark's answer was that if they already had a brokerage account with Schwab, Fidelity, or Vanguard, use the money market, but if not, they use a high-yield bank savings account. What he didn't mention is that there is a difference when it comes to taxes. Assuming they're a U.S. Treasury money market account, the interest earned on that account is not taxable for state tax purposes. So if someone has a sizable amount in savings and lives in a high-income tax state like New York or California, there'd be a significant advantage to using the U.S. Treasury money market. Thanks for all you and your team do.
That is a great suggestion, something I should have mentioned. So let's take it a step further. Some of the biggest states have state-specific municipal money market funds, which means you don't pay state or federal tax on it. You have some risk because of credit quality, but it is a way for you to get essentially an effective higher yield after tax.
Another Chuck, but this Chuck is in Massachusetts. Clark still doesn't stink, but he oversimplified the math when discussing the cost per mile to drive electric, hybrid, and gas vehicles. While it's true on a per-mile basis, the comparison fails to consider the sometimes massive difference in upfront costs for some hybrid and electric vehicles versus their gas-guzzling cousins. When our family needed a minivan, I really wanted to get a hybrid, but those models by Honda and Toyota were so much more expensive than traditional combustion that it would have taken 10 years of cheap miles to make up for the larger upfront cost.
Very good point. And so the good news is that you mentioned Toyota is one of the ones. Toyota now has narrowed the gap so much between the gas engine version of a vehicle, which they actually have less and less of, and the hybrid version available in that model, to the point that the payback period is quite a bit shorter than it used to be. Usually it's going to be more like a 5-year cycle to make the payback now, hybrid versus gas engine, because the cost of running them is so much cheaper. Now, electric, this is the Achilles heel of electric vehicles, is that now that the tax credit is gone and you're comparing price to price of an equivalent electric vehicle to a gas engine, it is hard to make back the savings buying electric versus gas. What that's going to do is the marketplace is going to force the sellers of electric vehicles to become more efficient, to sell at a lower price than before, now that they don't have the helping hand of the federal tax credit. And I guarantee you that's going to happen.
Okay, and one more on this topic from Mark in California. Clark, you stink like a garbage truck. You always talk about how much less it costs to run an electric vehicle, so I bought the plug-in version of an SUV, costing $7,000 more than the regular gas model because it's going to save me so much money. After a long drive with a spent battery, I filled the SUV with gas at Costco and calculated the cost to be 20 cents per mile. Getting home and plugging the vehicle into a regular outlet in my garage, it calculates I get 2 miles per kilowatt hour. So with great anticipation, I checked my electric bill to see how much I'm saving. I pay 40 cents per kilowatt hour, making it 20 cents per mile. So I'm saving nothing driving on electricity. I spent $7,000 for nothing.
Okay, thank you for that. So we're talking about a luxury vehicle sold in a plug-in hybrid version. And the biggest problem with the plug-in hybrid is not what you're referring to. It's that most owners of plug-in hybrids never plug them in. If it's not really easy to, they don't. So basically, you paid extra for a plug-in hybrid when all you basically are carrying around with you is a regular hybrid, because you only get the advantage if you plug it in. Now, the math of what you said, only 2 miles per kilowatt, that's a crazy low amount based on what I've historically seen. But that may be the case with the particular hybrid, plug-in hybrid you have.
Richard in Nevada says, Clark, you stink like a dead fish during low tide in Venice, Italy.
I've been there. That smells pretty bad.
I agree with you that Roth contributions for 401ks make sense for most people, but you fail to factor in state and local taxes. If you work in California making $200,000 as an individual, you will also pay an additional 10% in state income tax. Combine that with the federal rate, and your marginal rate is 34%. If you plan to retire in a no-income tax state like Nevada or Tennessee, utilizing Roth contributions does not make sense when working in a higher tax state like California or New York. Love the show. Thanks for all you do.
So thank you again. Okay, so that's the second person who's talked about the
Taxes.
State tax impact from the ultra-high state income tax states. And yes, if you make the move like you live in Nevada, no state income tax. So if you earned your money in California, then you retire in Nevada, and that's your intention, you're absolutely right. Most people end up staying in the state they're in. They don't migrate to another state in retirement. But if you were pretty clear that's going to be your intention when you do retire, you're 100% right for higher income earners.
Joseph in New Jersey says, Clark is wrong when he says the best CD rates are at Vanguard, Fidelity, and Schwab. Search around, there are better rates out there. I found better by 0.25% 5-year rate online at a bank, which was very meaningful to me because I took out a large CD. I prefer to keep all my money at just one of Clark's favorite financial institutions, but I'm cheap like Clark, and I won't pass up a few extra $100 a year in interest.
Okay, I love this. I love this so much. So go ahead and name the bank that...
Synchrony.
Synchrony Bank, which looks at the money they earn from people's CDs as cheap financing for the money they lend out on Synchrony credit cards. So, yeah, often you'll find that companies that have very large credit card portfolios may, in fact, offer better than normal rates on high-yield savings accounts and also on CDs. So that is true. There are circumstances where you can beat the broker-placed CDs from low-cost providers like Schwab, Fidelity, and Vanguard. It's fairly rare, but it can happen as you so demonstrate.
Okay, Lawrence in Georgia says, Clark, on a more than one occasion, you've talked about Americans opting to retire in another country. While it may be cheaper to live in a foreign country, you fail to point out that retirees should still sign up for Medicare Parts A and B at 65, even though Medicare doesn't cover overseas medical expenses. If life circumstances change and the retiree wants to return to the USA, the government will impose penalties for not enrolling in Medicare.
And those penalties are quite large. So right now, there's 4 million Americans living outside the United States. And in polling that I saw recently, 20% approximately of Americans are considering at some point in their lifetime living overseas. And a lot of it is the cost pressures, particularly later in life. But you're right, having yourself protected if you move to a foreign destination, then you decide later, you know what? I miss the good old USA. I miss my kids or grandkids or whatever. And so it's like almost like an insurance policy, paying the Medicare Part B premiums so that if you do return to the United States, you slide right back into Medicare.
Kent in Indiana says, even your beloved Atlanta Falcons would agree that you fumbled on the monologue on the goal line when you discussed how to protect yourself with an Airbnb reservation. You mentioned that we should follow the car rental recommendation when renting an Airbnb. You said to shoot a video inside the unit upon arrival to confirm later that something may have been broken or missing. Agreed. I was waiting for you to remind us to shoot another video upon our departure to prove nothing was broken or taken. To my chagrin, you skipped to the other side issues, like never prepay for a hotel room or car rental. Keep both on the football and give both sides of the advice when near the goal line. Your Clark teammates are rooting for you.
Okay, I can't believe that because I did that as a TV story also. And of course I said in it, you shoot the video in the beginning and you shoot the video at the end when you leave. And so I'm guilty often of squirrel. Mm-hmm. I'll be talking about something, I'll think about something else, and I never come all the way back around to finish up the whole point of what I was talking about.
It proves you don't script anything. Everything's on the point
everything's like right out of my head. And so I'm saying that Clark stinks because I do stink on that. Because think how many times somebody has said, I kept waiting for you to say blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And I just forget.
Well, that's my job. And I think what he meant was keep both hands on the football. I love the football analogy. Okay, David in Florida. Clark.
You got to be careful also. You don't start celebrating the touchdown before you've crossed the goal line.
Okay. All right, another football that ends us here. David in Florida. Clark. A younger me would have thought you stunk to high heavens for your take that the NFL is superior to college football. But as I've gotten older, I have to admit you're right. My beloved Wolverines played your Chippewas earlier this season in a college game that was something akin to bugs versus the windshield of a big rig doing 70 miles per hour down the highway. There's no way that game should have been played as one team pays their quarterback alone more than the other pays their entire roster. Good teams should be forced to play good teams. They shouldn't be allowed to schedule their own tomato cans for guaranteed wins each year. The NFL, I don't understand that, by the way. The NFL gets this right and routinely produces competitive games in nearly every matchup, while the top college teams might only play 3 or 4 equals each year. I still love college football the most, but if I want to watch competitive football, the NFL it is. Thanks for all you do, and go blue.
Okay, now, I'm going to set off a storm here.
Oh, boy.
You think you set off a storm talking about politics? No, I'm going to set off a storm talking about salary caps. College football is sowing the seeds of its demise by exactly what you said in your post, having this enormous disparity in the money being shoved into players' pockets at a few dozen schools, and everybody else is the have-nots. It's eliminating the competitiveness where any team can beat any other team in the NFL on Sunday. In college, that's become a joke. So what has to happen if college football does not want to sow the seeds of its own destruction is there has to be, like the NFL has, an amount of money that goes into a pile, and that is what a team can spend on talent. So what will have to happen in college football, there are a lot of universities that are going to opt out of that kind of thing. So we're going to have to go to a super division that would be under the salary cap, and then all the other schools that aren't really interested in spending just unbelievable arms race money to win a trophy in football. I mean, that's just my thing. And I know that there are going to be people who are going to be unhappy with me. But you just can't have a system with a few hundred colleges and then only a few dozen have all the best players because they are the ones with all the money they're shoving in their pockets. One person's opinion has nothing to do with what we normally do. Remember, you're unhappy with me about that? Go to clark.com/Clark Stinks, and then Krista can read that on Clark Stinks. Coming up ahead, digital IDs. Do you use them yet? I sure do. I love the digital ID. In fact, I got a digital driver's license when my state joined the system for iPhones and Androids. So I've had it for a good while. And it's great because there are situations I can use it instead of having to fumble for my driver's license at most TSA places, I'm able to tap with my phone just as if they need to see my boarding pass, I can show that. But all I got to do is tap at the TSA stations that are updated, and they already know who I am. It's so much easier. And you got a backup. Now, it's not universal yet. Not everybody's going to say, yeah, your digital ID is fine. But where it is, it makes it so much easier. And now, if you're one of the many, many Americans who have a passport, you can do a digital download of your passport to your iPhone or your Android. And the system is designed to be tamper-proof with a process that validates you are who you say you are when you load it on your phone. And so more and more, when you come back into the country, you're going to, instead of having to fumble for your passport to pull it out, you're going to be able to use the tap to pay function on your iPhone or your Android and tap your way back into the country with your phone. Is it going to make a big difference in your life? No, because at this point, in most states, you still have to, if you got stopped, you see the lights behind you, you got stopped, you're still going to have to show your physical driver's license. We're a bit away from when you're not going to have to carry it with you anymore. But of course, that will come as well. And how nice that's going to be, because I think about how often people will absentmindedly forget their ID or wallet or whatever. Do you ever forget?
Not very often, but I did just do this because you talked to me about this the other day, and it's really easy. You go into Google Wallet in my case, or Apple has this Apple Pay, and you click, there's a place where you can add an identification, which would be, your driver's license or whatever, and then you put your state, which state you're in. So there's a different procedure for every state. I put in all my information, took pictures of my license, the front and back, and then they submit it to my state to get it approved. And it came back within like an hour, and it was approved and in there. It's very, very, they really do walk you through it.
And you also have to take a picture of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
That it validates.
Where you're looking up
and
down.
It validates that the person adding it is actually the person whose driver's license or passport is. And so if somebody steals your phone and you're not carrying your driver's license, you say, Clark,
well, but
you're an idiot.
You should have your wallet or your Apple Pay. You should close that app after every time you use it.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about then you don't
have it. Yeah.
You don't have
but I do want to
your
say that.
Physical driver's license
Close
with you.
it every time and make sure that you password protect that app with I use my fingerprint. Just because you don't want, if someone does get a hold of your phone in that way too, they could have access to all these things.
Yeah, and I talked about last year, not to get ghoulish, but the terrible crime wave that happened in New York and Miami and I forget what other cities where criminals were drugging people with iPhones who they had scoped were wealthy, and then they were using their face to get into their brokerage accounts, bank accounts, and transfer out their money. Those were ugly crimes that ended up, some of the people they drugged, unfortunately, overdosed and died. So that's an extreme case. But for the most part, that kind of thing is so isolated, I would not use that as a reason not to go digital with your driver's license or your passport.
All right, let's go to some questions. Matt has one about passports. This is Matt in Colorado. Actually, it's not a question. Hello, Clark. In one of your podcasts, you were talking about your passport and when you can renew. I just wanted to tell you about an outstanding experience I had with the State Department website when I went to renew my passport through their online option. You cannot renew your passport online until it's within 1 year of expiring. The process was quick and simple, with me taking a selfie, which will be used on my passport. On the website, it said it would take 4 to 6 weeks for delivery. I filled the form out on a Sunday afternoon, submitted it, and I received my passport in the mail that Thursday. I did not pay for any expedited service or expedited postal service delivery, and yes, I received it in 4 days. It was amazing, and to add to that, it was during the government shutdown. I am usually the first to criticize the efficiency of our government bureaucracy, but I also have to give credit when the government goes above and beyond, like the State Department did with my passport.
All right. Other than people who are in a death emergency situation and get an ultra expedited passport, I have never heard of somebody getting just a standard renewal in 4 days, 3 days, whatever. I mean, that's incredible. But the new digital renewal process, if you're eligible for it, absolutely 100% do it, not the old-fashioned way of having to fill out all that mind-numbing paperwork and go have it submitted in person.
This is from Alan in Texas. I love your show and advice. Like you, I'm put out with the Southwest Visa card, and I plan to cancel it just before the renewal date. I would like to replace it with the Capital One Venture X card. My credit is currently frozen, and my FICO score is 839. I own my house and cars, and I have no debt. I would prefer not to submit a credit application for a new card. How should I go about obtaining the new card? I can open a checking account with Capital One, and I hope that they pre-approve me for the card. Is there another way, or will I just have to fill out an application? The Southwest Visa expires in June of 26. Thank you for being you.
Well, you are so kind, and no thank you to Southwest becoming something else. Oh, my goodness.
You're just a little upset.
I booked a flight for January 28th. It was that's the second day that they have the seat assignments. And it felt so creepy with all the attempts to charge me more money for a seat assignment. Ugh. Anyway, so I already have canned my Rapid Rewards card, as I shared before. So, yes, you're going to have to thaw your credit, and you're going to have to do the online application to get the Venture X. Do it based on when the best deal is available for bonus miles, because they rotate in and out with better and worse deals for sign-up bonus miles. Capital One Venture X today, in my opinion, is the best of the free agent mileage credit cards. 2x minimum earned on every purchase. Nobody else does that.
This is from Tom in Colorado. Is it worth paying an annual fee to have a credit card with primary insurance for rental cars? I have several cards with secondary insurance, but after a recent scare my son had with a cracked windshield in a rental car, I'm considering converting my Chase Freedom Unlimited to a Chase Sapphire Preferred. I'm usually very opposed to paying annual fees, but I wonder if $95 is worth it in this case. My wife and I probably rent a car 4 or 5 times a year, and I'd plan to add our son as an authorized user so he can piggyback on the benefit. And yes, I know I could get a sign-up bonus to apply for the card, but I don't want yet another card sitting in the drawer that I don't use. And yet I need to try and keep it, and then you need to try and keep it active. Oh, and the lower cashback rate doesn't matter, as our everyday card is the Fidelity Visa with a 2% cashback.
Yes, 100%. You rent cars 4 times a year, without doubt. Having the Chase Sapphire Preferred with primary coverage is 100% a brilliant idea. It's not a smart idea. It's a brilliant idea. Because at $95 till they change their mind and eliminate primary coverage, it is the best deal I know of going of any card in the United States to get primary rental car coverage where you can say no to all the junk they try to sell you at the car rental counter and not have to worry about how much of it you're going to have to pay or having to involve your own automobile insurer. Now, you have to involve your own automobile insurer, whether you're in a rental car or your own vehicle, if, do you know, Krista?
What?
If the damage to your vehicle came from you being in a wreck with another vehicle. Because all this stuff we talk about with credit cards providing car rental coverage doesn't cover your liability if you damage somebody else's vehicle and it's your fault. But it does handle all the stuff with the car rental agencies, which is priceless. not having to be involved in a back and forth with them about what the car rental agency is trying to charge you for damage to a rental car. Primary coverage it's the deal.
And I just want to give a quick shout out before we go to the deals team. Speaking of deals,
yes,
this is probably the last week you probably want to ship stuff if you're going to buy holiday gifts. And they have been working so hard. Like, they are just working around the clock 7 days a week to try to find the best deals if you're looking for them and you can afford them. And I'm so impressed with them. Karis, who runs that team, the whole team, they're just awesome.
Through Black Friday month, the month of November, I don't know that anybody on our deals team ever slept.
I know.
Because they were posting stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. And so what we do that I'm so proud of our team for, so we don't waste your time. We don't tout a non-deal deal.
Mm-hmm. Just because, to get paid for it or something.
Right. Krista and I were talking the other day, not on the podcast. We were talking about the investigation of Amazon, that the Prime Day deals, a lot of them were completely bogus, that the prices were actually higher than they'd been on Amazon both before and after Prime Days. That's the problem with sales, is that people say something's a deal, but how do you really know? And that's one of the things that we do at Clark Deals that I think is so great, to help you save more, spend less, by telling you when a deal really is a deal. Because we never want you to feel, after you just heard what I said about Amazon Prime Days, that you got ripped off. So have a great, great weekend. And we will be at your service Monday.